Here it is, the sequel to one of the highest rated races of all time. Playground Games have blessed us with the 5th entry to the critically acclaimed Horizon series. By now you probably have seen all the rave reviews already, and in this video I want to sum up my thoughts on this incredible title with some nice visuals and audio to boot. So come join me in discussing and witnessing the beauty of this year's Game of the Year contender. Whatever Forza Horizon 4 did, this game does better. It refines and improves virtually every element of the series, and the sum of all these improvements is considerable. Take controls for instance. If you thought Forza Horizon 4's controls felt good, then you're in for a pleasant surprise. The controls are tighter, the cars feel less floaty than before, and I find myself doing less micro adjustments to the steering, all thanks to the improved systems employed for braking, suspension and steering. The vehicles are a joy to control. Let's talk about map design. Mexico makes for a far more interesting setting than the UK, and that isn't just me talking about the aesthetics. More on that later. There is just so much more variation in the terrain and locales. Better play spaces that are melded together in a much better way, with longer motorways as well as off-road spaces to allow players to reach their destination how they see fit. I found myself turning off the HUD elements and getting lost in just driving through this incredible map. Let's talk about vehicles and car customizations. There are over 500 cars in the game, and there are more customizations than ever before, including my personal favorites, more wide body kits. More options such as the number of transmissions, differentials for different types of racing, and the introduction of off-road tire compounds. These additions will lead to even more variety of modified vehicles and tuning setups that the Forza community is so good at creating. I wonder what the new meta will be now that off-road tires can be added to nearly any vehicle. As far as gameplay is concerned, this is the most fun you can possibly have in an arcade racer. The great campaign race set pieces aside, which are a lot of fun, there is something for everyone. Drifting, drag racing, street racing, off-road racing, stunts, you name it. If that wasn't enough, Playground Games have added Event Lab, which basically allows players to create their own events. Combine this with the online modes, and the amount of goodness you get is just overwhelming. So as I've sped through this video to explain why this game is so good, and really, it is undeniable, you may ask, Gaz, surely there are some downsides to it. Quite honestly, I find myself struggling to think of many, but I have some thoughts on improvements. Player customizations are limited. They also still feel really gimmicky to me with the silly dances and outfits which pretty much carry over from the last game with no real improvements. I question how much these add to the game, particularly the way they are implemented here. Imagine a car meet, if you've ever been to one, or the first Fast and Furious movie where everyone partied up in a location with their vehicles. Avatars could be put to better use in that kind of setup, with players showing off their crazy cars with their dank setups and liveries. The narrative of the story events, if you want to call them that, are kind of weak, with the comedy being, well, not really funny unless they have a really dry sense of humor. Perhaps a more serious tone could do wonders. Forza Horizon was initially about the festival vibes you would get in a car scene with convoys, etc. I think there is a scope here for a less silly narrative to hone in on what actual car culture is like, which in itself is actually extremely diverse. But perhaps we can discuss this in another video. These aren't problems as such, just personal minor gripes and suggestions really. A valid criticism aimed at the previous series was the quality of the audio. Thankfully, this has been drastically improved. I'm not talking about the music, although all I have to say is Intergalactic by Beastie Boys. Yep, enough said. But you know the audio is good when you turn off the radio just to listen to the medley of car engine sounds and screeching tires that reverberate in your ears. Just have a listen to this. Forza Horizon 5 represents the near perfection of the racing formula that Playground Games created all those years ago that took the gaming world by storm. Where the Forza Horizon series can go after this 5th iteration remains to be seen. Before I leave you, I want to mention one of Forza Horizon's biggest strengths. It is very difficult for a racer to leave a mark on gamers and critics for some reason, and yet Forza Horizon 5 did that at this year's E3 by winning Game of the Show. Forza Horizon 5 is one of the most incredible looking video games I've ever had the pleasure of playing. This is truly a work of art.